Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Dreaming of the city. Hi, I'm looking for more people who dream of the city. The city is a worn-down post-apocalypse looking place, always nighttime. Never can see the stars or moon, but it's dim, lit with small fires, barrels or the likes. There are people there, but I've yet to see them other than the guide, who was a woman who looked to be in her early to mid-20s with short blonde hair. The ones I could hear but never see were called the damned by the guide. Now I've dreamed of this place many times, but only had the guide once. The city gives off a feeling of dread and often tries to sneak into other dreams. Dream about walking down my city street, walk down an alleyway, and it starts to warp into the city. The buildings are very tall and give off the feeling of something like New York size.
I haven't dreamed of that city, no. I've dreamt of another post-apocalyptic feeling place also only called the city, though. Places I'm walking through will sometimes warp into a part of the city, and then I'm stuck there. But this can be a relative relief from the places I leave behind. It isn't always night. Sometimes it's twilight, and sometimes the sky's the orange you get on a cloudy, snowy night in winter. I've never seen the moon or stars, but I've never looked for them either. There might be some occasional fires and gas lamps, but also a lot of green-tinged fluorescent lighting, when there's any artificial light. Most parts of the city are semi-labyrinthine, and it's easy to get trapped underground or indoors without being able to find your way back out into its streets. I rarely meet any people there, and I suspect most of its current residents are not human.
I've had recurring dreams of it for years. Always night, a lot of it is all burned out and broken, glass everywhere. Like some apocalypse happened a decade or so prior and the people are getting by and trying to keep going as best as possible. Electricity seems sporadic. I don't get a particularly bad feeling from the place, just a strange feeling. There are some parts that are not as broken down as the rest, but it feels destitute. It's great that other people are seeing it. I sometimes get the impression that it's where we're headed, or that it's the reality and this real world is the dream.
Oneromancer here. I had a recent dream in which I was scavenging for food in a supermarket after store hours. There were occupants walking around, seemingly in fugue states, who apparently did not notice my presence. I found that there was a staircase that led up to a parking garage-like structure overlooking a chasm. I walked to the edge of the structure and peered down into the vast depth below. A sprawling cityscape, torchlights burning in the distance with tufts of orange smoke billowing into a sky dark as pitch. In the center of this ruined core was a crater enclosed in what looked like a force field of orange lightning. 7 straight, narrow rays of directed orange light melted a small medallion into the heart of the crater, and from it a flow of lava crawled up over the breach of the lightning shield. It flowed over the whole doomed plain and churned its way up the face of the garage, searing with a maddening heat that licked at the hairs on my arm. As it reached up to the top of the structure, I could perceive it somehow forming into a living biomass like a slug of molten rock. Its amorphous mass seemed to form a rippling crown. Then I woke up.
Up here. I am very happy I'm not the only person who has dreamed of the city. I've yet to find the name of the place in the dreams, so I just dubbed it the city. Anyone who has also dreamed of something close to what I'm talking about care to describe what it looks like to you?
I'm usually in the most abandoned parts. Everything is overgrown. There are some suburban areas also abandoned, although they have some charm, while still somewhat unsettling. The most threatening places are in the actual city, where the buildings are bigger than they should be and seem to change, maybe to confuse you on purpose. The sky is usually in a twilight sort of phase, although it can get darker in certain parts of the city. As for people, if I run into them, they don't seem real, more like ghosts, like memories. Which is why I think there's a general stress about the place. These ghosts are almost always confused, stressed, whatever. They feed off of it, I guess. They don't seem to be aware of much, though. Some parts of the city feel alien almost and are much older than other parts of the city. Those are places I'm drawn to. I still don't know why. I keep going back because I feel like I'm looking for something. I always seem to know what it is in the dream but can never remember it when I'm awake.
For me, it's always one giant, endless city. Few broken down cars on the roads ever so often. Most of the car windows are busted out or the car is missing doors. The buildings themselves are always dark inside with windows busted in random spots. First time I was there, I was in a parking garage. That's where I heard the voices in, behind a door that opened from the outside. Most things there seem old and rusted, broke down and forgotten in the city.
Weird. Never had a name for it. I always called it a dreamscape. I guess the city would be a good name. It's like old, but not horse-drawn carriages old. It's like a modern-day setting, just terribly aged and grungy. It's an unsettling place. It's always dark, and there are no stars or moon. The reason I called it a dreamscape is because no matter whether I'm indoors or outside, I know I'm there because of that unsettling feeling, and sometimes a new place I'm at can lead to a place I've been before in that place, and vice versa. Sometimes there's people, and sometimes I'm alone. Sometimes I work with others I meet to achieve a goal, such as escaping someplace, or finding something, or even working a menial job. I've never ran into any creatures per se, but sometimes it feels like something is there with me and it's awful. It can be quite a stressful and chaotic experience. I think in my entire life, I'm turning 28 this year, I think I have had 2 semi-pleasant experiences there. These dreams are always very vivid, sights, sounds, and even smells, which for me is weird, because my sense of smell is basically useless in real life. There's rarely ever any music, but there's this noise. Not particularly audible, but a noise I can feel I can't really describe it. And that noise I feel is what makes it seem more real than dream, like a constant reminder that I'm in that place. It's subtle, but it wears on me. I'm always extra fatigued after I wake up from those dreams, no matter how long I was asleep for. I never doubted I was the only one who had dreams like this, but man, the similarities.
I have dreams of your city, always at night, run-down, non-functioning public transport. I always start off alone but end up joining a group for some goal we have all set in our minds. Sometimes the city is cramped, while at other times eerily spacious, and there is a more smaller suburban area with a river. And this town just causes utter confusion when you enter it. I would say, like a dark New York City mixed with suburban country. I would remember an area near the ocean where these towering giants made of shadow would destroy buildings and anything in their path, but some kids had made a shielded from their site-tech type base in a tall, thin building with a circular room at the peak. Another time, I was in the subway and got the trains running to reach a museum with a group of kids I was leading with a woman who was guiding them. The town of confusion I spoke about is before the city, and there is a small bridge made of wood leading into the town, preluding the massive bridge leading into the city. Also, there is a specific interest in DNA from most of the people I met. Also, the water is the cause of the confusion in the city. Another story I have is finding an underground market with all these weird types of people selling various items, weapons, etc. And I found a small girl with blue skin and strange ears in a hood. And she was selling these figurines of people daily items and more related houses and labeling them as mind puzzles, tempting me to pick one up. As I looked over all the trinkets, I noticed one figurine, a double-wide suburban house with nighttime shade covering the trinket in deep colors. As soon as I picked it up, I was put in a scenario where I had to outrun one of the monsters people had rumored being in the city. It would hunt you down and kill you over and over again until you obtained the right sequence of events to escape the puzzle.
Same here, I got the same story here. I'm always transported to a city that is named Walton. The place is kind of like a slum full of so many people and other spiritual beings. What is more fascinating is that they don't speak the language that I always used, English and Tagalog, but when I try to talk to them, they pretty much talk to me like the way people do here. God, the place is so awesome. Heck, I also eat a lot of food there. For example, There is a jelly that looks like an orange and tastes like an orange, a chocolate that is colored ruby, and so on. It's like the place that I'm currently living in, but with weird creatures and humans living together. There are no police there, and there is tons of magical stuff to be found everywhere. I can pretty much go there every night, but my problem is that I am kinda connected there, that I don't even think that it's a dream anymore. Somehow connected to parallel universe memory, or the hive mind. It's cool. Gotta go there later. Go there.
Dreams started off with me being in the city I live in. It was pretty nasty and filled with what I could only describe as evil entities. I decided to head south in a search for a better environment. I ended up in a place with old huts by rock faces. Those were some pretty solid and big rock faces. I decided to head up to the top of one of them. On top of the cliff was my parents' friend who does rock climbing in waking life. She tried to encourage me into descending from the cliff. I was skeptical of whether it's safe, so she decided to show me how safe it is. She took the rope and started sliding down with someone belaying the rope instead of the rope being tied to a sturdy point, and she herself belaying. I watched the rope slide over the edge of the cliff. The rope was made up of multiple ropes tied together. The lower she got, the more the rope was disintegrating. Noped out and went further. Next, I was in a small city by a river. I visit this place quite often in the Dreamscape. I walked around the city and tried to find a proper place to eat. I walked through the old cafeterias, but for some reason I wanted to find McDonald's. When I finally got it, I was eating it in an abandoned house, a squat if you must. I was laying on the ground and an ex appeared. She laid in front of me and said nothing. Her brother walked in and started scolding her. Told, "Don't tell that motherfucker that you got pregnant." I can't really remember if I felt nothing or felt depressed upon waking up. Could have been a mix of both. I was chased by the police for the whole entirety of this dream.
I have a reoccurring dreamscape that I've dubbed the Ringed City. In the center is a small neon Rome, large white concrete structures and buildings. Lights are colorful, and people there have access to magic. Past that, the next ring is the flooded overpasses, a flooded area with broken overpasses and structures built on top of them. Small communities like villages. Giant monsters roam the waters. The next ring is a Gothic city that is in perpetual twilight. Gas lamps light the streets. This is by far the most populated area. After that, it's a large field encompassing the entirety of the Gothic city. This ring is by far the thickest, about double that of the Gothic city. After that, encompassing it all, is the complex, a large concrete ring, a military base and research facility. Beyond that is the forest, seemingly never-ending with rogue populations of people. I have been in every ring and seen the others from each area, though most of the time I'm within the complex or around it. I am a military asset. Like Spec Ops or Special Privilege Merc, I've been modified. My code name is Warhound. I have heightened senses, incredible speed on all fours. I can rip a throat out with a simple flick of my wrist, and so much more. Many ops include me in the forest with my other Warhound pal in our squad. We are special tools of absolute destruction for this complex. We wipe out entire camps in seconds. Our squad never gets any action, just clean up. Sector 8 of the complex is a cloning facility that I have repeatedly refused to enter. And when I finally did, I destroyed many vats of my own clones there, and have since made any effort to clone me impossible. I have a home in the Gothic city, but I have special access to Neon Rome and can enter freely. I also seem to have a lot of free time. Unless they find a forest camp, I tend to just be kicking rocks doing whatever.
When the longest night comes to pass, when the masses accept sins as standards of life, when the bright star defiantly falls, so too will the city of gold. Many acts shall take place, all are set in stone, and like death, all must come to pass. The maiden in white shall be stoned in the streets for the act of praying. The knights of the north shall turn their backs to their kin for promises of gold and power. The twins of the smoke-covered mountain shall slay the daughters of the church to collect their blood. Once the maiden, the knights, and the twins all come to be, the last 7 shall rise to complete their covenant, and 10 years of chaos shall ensue. The Golden City wanted nothing but control and had the power and gold to do so. The greed they so sought after shall be how they burn. The 7 shall be spoken of soon and will appear as saints. They will corrupt the minds of sheep, and their bidding shall become law. The people who follow have already sealed their fate. They will be shields and cannon fodder to false idols and evil. The last war shall be fought by the misguided and the innocent, but no side shall win. This is all part of the 7's plan. Go out to the world and warn the untouchables. Take any who have ears to hear, and begin to plan, for this will come to pass and must come to pass. Only ones with honest eyes shall see the truth. Many shall choose to do nothing as atrocities unfold. The blood of many shall be on their soul, and they shall find no peace nor pleasure once they refuse to act. Many more won't even seem to notice as evil fills their city and their homes. These will be the first to fall, and no one will notice as the city becomes bare. At the fall of blood from the last daughter who was slain by the twins, the first of the 7 shall come into the light, the bishop of lies, the first of 7. The serpent in the cloth shall use his venomous forked tongue to spread his lies until the most devout set fire to anything deemed holy. His words shall confuse and misguide all who choose to listen. He shall turn faith into control, and with control he shall lead. He must be stopped before the last temples of spirit fall. On the harvest moon, after the faith of many are lost, the 2nd shall arrive to give false hope. The silent sergeant shall take charge of the bishop's newfound army and shall lay siege to all buildings that tie to law, history, science, and the arts. He will demand everything burn that is not his word, and they all shall comply. The ones with eyes to see will refuse, and they too shall burn as the sounds of mass celebration erupt, filling the air with both screams and laughter. The first 2 of the 7 shall conquer quickly and without resistance. If these 2 shall be allowed their wishes, it will be nigh impossible to stop the last 5. Life shall only grow more horrid with each passing night. As common knowledge is lost to fire and smoke fills the sky, so shall the 3rd of 7 appear. The true doctor he shall be called, and all shall follow his word. He will offer his medicine, and the masses shall drink of it. The weak and the old shall perish as the strong blindly drink of his cup. As the bodies pile, he will demand all children be evaluated in private hospitals, and like the word of God, the parents oblige with glee. The children will be examined. Most will be lost to this process, as the rest are sent to the 4th of the 7. As the children suffer, the adults praise the doctor as a savior to them. The 4th of the 7, known as the teacher, shall take the children deemed worthy and begin his lessons. They no longer become civil or humane, instead trained to be monsters, and like monsters they shall be. Taught to kill without remorse, they kill each other for practice. Once the strong are determined, they shall be given their own mission and their own numbers. No longer human, they only follow the teacher's word, and his word becomes law. The children shall be so corrupt, they will and shall gladly kill their own with no hesitation. When children become monsters, so too shall the 5th of 7 shall come to pass. If the 5th is allowed to come, it might be too late to stop the rolling stone of demise. As the children become innocent, no longer the 5th of the 7 shall arrive. Known as the last shake, he shall be the promise of wealth to the masses, and the masses shall follow. He keeps a key firmly gripped in his left hand, never to release it from his fist. His words rain down on the people like gold, and they shall bathe in it. 1 month after he shall arise, he will demand all women to be examined by the true doctor, and they all shall oblige. The women will take any procedure the doctor demands, and those deemed fertile shall become surrogates of the last shake. With his own seed cast across the word, he makes his second demand. Those with land, farms, produce, or livestock shall give unto him all of those possessions, and they shall eagerly follow. Once all is his, a great famine shall set across, and no rain shall fall for 8 moons. The masses await further orders to be met with silence, and with that silence beget violence. As they turn on their own, so too do the children arrive. In the chaos, family attack family overbred, and their wrath will not go unnoticed. When the blood of the mothers fall on the hands of the children, so too shall the 6 of 7 arise. It will come to pass if no one chooses to act. As food and water become dust, all things made of man shall cease. No one will notice as the technology crumbles, leaving only husks of their former glory. The 6 of the 7 is one they call the Lamb, and is this last true hope to stop the corruption. The Lamb knows not his purpose, nor does he know the plans of the 7. He must not fall to them. There shall be a great rebellion as the knights of the north are slain for their sins, and from this action, the Lamb shall start his exodus. He will travel across the land. His words will feel bitter, his face will signal disgust, and his actions shall represent change. As he gathers his people and the harshness of his words strike at the hearts of all, many shall deny him while few follow. As he spreads his truth, the 5 of the 7 demand the execution of the Lamb, and the masses come to him as a swarm. The battle shall be immense, and he shall be captured. When the Lamb is sat on the red chair for all to judge, the 7th of the 7 shall arise. There will be a public hearing to determine the Lamb's crimes, and he will be found guilty. His punishment is death by starvation, and they will see it be done. As the masses cheer, the Lamb will speak his final words before taking a vow of silence. The day the blind kill the sun is the day all darkness comes. He shall remain silent in the red chair for his final days to come. If his death is allowed, trumpeting sounds shall ring across the land, and all will be soon to fall. As the Lamb is mocked by the crowd, his tears shall fall not for himself, but for all the lost who blindly follow. As the 7th tear strikes the red chair, the 7th of 7 shall step into the crowd. The false shepherd with his eyes of black and his robes of gray shall speak, and with his words only death shall come. All of the 7 shall watch as the Lamb slowly suffers and give orders to execute anyone foolish enough to sneak food to him. With the passing days, when the Lamb is at his weakest, then so will the false shepherd act. His word shall be heard by all, and all shall follow him. The false shepherd shall lead the masses south through the once great river. As all eyes stay on him, none shall notice the world around them in waste. All things begin to die and wither as he leads them further south. If he is allowed to bring them to his final destination, everything left shall turn to dust, and one final light shall be seen before total darkness. All souls shall be lost, and when that comes to pass, good and evil will have one final battle to no avail, as evil becomes too strong to bear, and all will be his. These things will come to pass, but these things can be stopped if only the strong-willed act, if only the ones with eyes to see defy, and those with ear to hear spread the truth. If no one chooses to act, there shall be no hope. Gather up your people and prepare, for time is running out. Seek the prophets and seek those open to hear these words before it's too late. The events that shall come to pass shall do so in order. The order will not be broken. If the maiden in white is stoned, then the knights shall turn their backs. If the knights turn their backs, then shall the twins slay the daughters of the church. If the daughters are slain, then the 7 shall rise one by one. Don't lose hope. Don't dismiss what you know to be true, and do not blindly believe anyone. Stay clear of the sins of the Golden City while you still can. The maiden in white must be protected at all costs to prevent this cycle. Many shall choose not to act, and with that defiance comes the end of days. Spread the word and find the prophets before they are no longer faithful enough to continue. With each age this has come to pass. Each time empires fall, only winners write their history. You can find countless times this process, but it is up to you to see the truth from lies. Entire civilizations lost without the proper records to prevent the past from becoming future. Near none shall believe if they chose to listen to the ones who write their own history. This has been told many times, though they shall not name those who would stop the corruption. They shall only spread falsehoods and misinformation, and the masses shall blindly accept their words as the purest truth. Go forth and read the history of man, and the unmistakable patterns emerge, hidden in plain sight. The truth shall shine through the lies for those who have the honest eyes to see it with.
Where'd you get this from?
This knowledge has always been and always will be. It has been lost and found throughout the ages. With each divine empire comes the crumbling of the empire through its own actions. Who I am is not of importance. I am merely the vessel as of now to spread the word, and I shall spread the word till the next takes the reins. Be strong and do not succumb to the Golden City or to the 7.
In a New York styling salon located on a beach somewhere. I think Florida, talking to a rapper Faze about taking a crap when your guts are bubbling. The people around us are offended, but we understand each other. I give him a pound and a nod and walk out the door into the street. I tell myself that I need to meet my wife at our house on the beach, and it's a long walk, but I have to get there before dark, because that's when it gets dangerous. As I walk, the sidewalks are just crowded with people going about their afternoon. I decided to go on a detour that leads to some Balkan Turkish country with these 2 younger American guys who have a YouTube channel where they explore abandoned buildings. I ask to tag along, and they say I can. We look at the map and where we are. We change into hiking gear and put on our packs. We begin walking and decide that, unlike last time, we will stay on the main road to the right and go towards the village on the map, as opposed to the hard route through the rocky hills and valleys towards the main city. We come into the village and meet some of the people. All are pretty old and only one woman speaks English. She tells us to be careful if we are going to the next large town ahead because of the Civil War. I ask her why, and she says the rebels don't like Americans. We tell her we will be careful, and we buy some trinkets and provisions, then set off. Going past some desolate farmlands and old black spherical transformers. 93 volts is what they are labeled for some reason. And I keep wondering what they're good for anymore, if they ever were at all. It's a relatively warm day. We do end up going off the main road for a bit to check out some old abandoned castles and rock formations in the hills before working our way to the town. We go through a couple checkpoints, and our passports are checked and cleared. We lie and say we are American journalists here to talk to the rebels. We are taken by jeep to a bunker-type building where the rebel forces are planning and gathering intel. We talk to one of the leaders when all of a sudden, an officer comes in and yells at us and the rebels. He has two older British guys detained. One guy looks almost identical to the guy from Top Gear. They are part of a history television show and are doing a documentary on the area when they were captured. The discussion turns to us and how much the United States would give to the rebels for our safe return. I'm very worried. They decide to keep the two younger American guys and let the British guys and myself go. I'm not sure why. They also give us the jeep to leave in. We climb in and introduce ourselves to each other. The British guys ask me if I would like to go with them. I say yes. We travel back towards the small village and run into another one along the way. It looks big like a city, but mostly abandoned. It turns out that there used to be a bunch of people there until a famine struck and they lost millions of bees. Something about the bees being essential for pollination of their specific crops. The people there still have some very beautiful flowers and gardens. Then we go to another village where a plague had struck 50 years before and wiped out the population. Very creepy place. Lots of stone and concrete buildings, brutalist architecture, almost like an old city in Soviet Russia. We just start talking to a local resident when I woke up.
I've had a series of several strange dreams that have been interconnected to some degree or another. These dreams are rarely of people or events, but are mainly of vast landscapes or dreamscapes that are all related. Not only do they share similar tones and motifs, but I eventually began to realize that there was some measure of subconscious world building involved. Despite each dream being separated from one another by wide stretches of time, I began to notice the continuity between them. I'll explain this in future posts as I make them. First dreamscape occurred in late 2013. I entered the dream tumbling sideways down a steep diagonal sand dune, totally discombobulated and unable to get my bearings. I roll for what feels like several minutes before reaching the bottom of the dune's trough. After picking myself up, I dust myself off and begin to notice that the sand has some strange qualities to it. It's cold to the touch and is this dark green color, has some tactile resistance to it like wet sand you usually find along the shoreline of beaches. All around me, vast mountains of cold, dark green sand slope upwards towards a purple night sky dotted with a large number of glowing celestial bodies. No other geographical features present, just vast mountainous dunes rising in all directions to block my vision. I decide to start climbing the one I just tumbled down in hopes of maybe finding out where I am. The climb takes a while, 10 minutes maybe. Once at the top of the dune, I could see hundreds of miles in every direction. Dark green sand dunes everywhere as far as the eye could see. To my right, I could see an area where the dunes were not as high. I felt a compulsion to travel in that direction and began trudging towards what I thought was a possible route to discover just what this place is. I travel for a long period of time before I eventually begin to notice that the dunes are not as large as they once were. The sky begins to change color as I travel. It's no longer that vibrant purple or lilac color, but is slowly shifting to an overcast gray. I start to notice that there are small pebbles and rocks in the sand now. They are small and discreet and are the same color as the sand they are resting in. The horizon begins to look different as well. I no longer see endless sand dunes, but notice that the green desert ends abruptly at the start of a vast flat plain. As I began to feel excited about finding a way out of the desert, I felt this strong, loud wind blowing against my left side. I raise my arms and hands to shield my face from sand being picked up by the gust, which prompts me to awaken. Second dreamscape happened around the middle of 2014. I enter this dream standing atop a rocky crag overlooking a wide, bowl-shaped crater or caldera. At the bottom of the crater is a body of totally transparent water that is inhabited with a wide variety of strange creatures. Many of these creatures are moving in small clusters, either in the water or along the shoreline where it meets the crater bowl. I start to carefully maneuver down the side of the crag and towards the waterline. At one point, I almost lose my footing because there are so many uneven surfaces along the rock faces. I stumble slightly and get a small cut on the side of my ankle. Nothing major, but the pain felt tangible and real. Upon reaching the waterline, I notice that the water has some odd qualities to it. There are no ripples or waves, and every time a creature enters the water, it offers strong surface tension. I decide to inspect the water for myself, so I lean down and prod the surface with my finger. The water is actually some sort of thick, viscous gel that more closely resembles hand sanitizer than anything. I begin to notice several of the creatures stirring from me being so close to the shoreline. Several of them begin swimming towards me. Something that looks like a sea anemone with fins slowly crawls out of the water and attempts to attack itself to my ankle. It's drawn to the scent of blood. It tries to lunge at my wound and manages to attach itself for a second before I rip it off. Feeling a shock of fear, I turn to start scrambling back up the side of the crater. I stumble a bit and injure myself on several other sharp rocks, but I manage to get away from more of those things that are slowly emerging from the gelatinous pool. Upon reaching the rim of the crater, I search around for other avenues of escape. To my left is the vast sea of dark green sand dunes. To my right is a dry plain of sandy stone with a pitch-black sky looming above. Scaling the outside of the crater is much easier than the inside. Less sharp rocks and no steep inclines to throw off my footing. I put a good amount of distance between myself and the gelatinous pool with a slow jog, heading towards the flat plain and away from the desert. In the distance, I can see someone or something walking very slowly. Whoever it is, they are facing away from me, moving further away from me and into the flats. As I begin to feel compelled to find or follow them, the strong wind I encountered in my first dream returns. It's strong enough to force me to close my eyes. As the wind gusts increase in speed, I wake up. The third entry in this journey was when I began to notice signs of continuity in myself, as well as the landscape. Third dreamscape occurred in July of 2015. This dream starts with me being inside of a gas station. The interior is badly unkempt, the windows are all smashed, the shelves are empty, and large panels in the ceiling are missing. Unlike the previous two dreamscapes, there is a slight breeze which would occasionally blow through the building, rustling some of the garbage and refuse that had been left behind. I try searching around for supplies and find nothing. Even the more mundane items typically sold at gas stations like air fresheners and cup lids have been taken. As I walk, I notice that my ankle is hurting. I look down to see that the scar from the incident at the crater lake is still there. I exit the building and try to orient my position. There is a sun in the sky now. Before this, the sky was usually lit by some kind of ambient lighting with no identifiable source. The gas station sits along a major road with no signs or lane markers. To my left, the road continues across the dusty to the horizon where I could just barely make out the crater lake. This is weird, as I have no recollection of ever seeing that road from the previous location. To my right, the road ends abruptly at the ruins of a rusted metal bridge overlooking a wide canyon. The canyon seems miles wide and incredibly deep. It's so deep that the sun's light does not reach the bottom. On the other side of the bridge, I can see the road continuing towards a large city of some kind. From the distance I'm at, the city seems dead. The buildings are close enough to where I can see visible aging on their exteriors and glass missing from some of the buildings. No sounds in any direction except for that slight breeze I keep feeling. I try scanning the other side of the canyon which separates me from the city. No other crossing in sight except for the ruins of the bridge. On the other side of the canyon I can see that same figure I'd seen before. Whoever it is, they are much closer now. I can see some details in their clothing. They are wearing a shawl or cloak wrapped around most of their body and a scarf wrapped around their face. This person is carrying some kind of walking stick or staff and uses it to gesture to me, beckoning for me to follow. I return the motion by stretching out my arms to either side of me, trying to explain that there was no way for me to cross the canyon with the bridge being out. He continues to make this circular, sweeping motion with his stick, completely disregarding my plight. I try shouting to try to communicate further, but he simply keeps walking along the road towards the city in the distance. As I shout to get his attention, that strong wind returns. This time it comes from behind me, pushing me in the direction of the canyon. It doesn't just feel like wind, but like someone is physically forcing me closer to the ravine. I begin to panic as I come closer and closer to the edge. I try to scream, but the air seizes up in my lungs. I feel my injured ankle sting and cause me to hobble forward, and with one last push of the wind I am sent over the edge into the dark canyon. The shock of fear is enough to wake me up and pull me out of the dream. The fourth dreamscape occurred in October of 2015. It started with me being on the other side of that canyon. I don't know how I got there. As always, I survey my surroundings. The rusted bridge behind me is still out, and the gas station further past that is still there. In front of me, the city is much clearer now. Hundreds of skyscrapers of varying sizes, no signs of life or activity. On this side of the canyon, there are pieces of rusted metal refuse mixed in with the dirt and dust. Crushed cans, scrap, fallen signs, etc. The cloaked figure I had seen in the previous dream is gone as well. I try to walk, but I notice that my ankle is still hurting me. I sit down in order to examine my foot and notice that the ankle is swollen and bruised. The injury must be worse than I expected. I try searching around for some kind of crutch to use to make this journey easier. Much to my surprise, I find a long pipe half buried in the dust. It's slightly corroded, but it'll do for now. I continue my trek along the major roadway into the city to possibly locate the person I'd seen earlier. As I travel into the city, I notice some very strange oddities about it. There are no cars anywhere. All the buildings and streets lack signs. The buildings are all extremely close together, with only tiny alleyways separating them. I travel for what seems like hours along this major road before I again see this figure standing among a small band of other people. Unlike the person with the stick, these people are much more clearly defined. They are men with untidy hair and damaged clothing, all sporting a collection of improvised melee weapons. Their faces are badly scarred, with some strange implants being visible along their necks and foreheads. I hear them yelling at the cloaked figure in a strange language I'd never heard before. One of these men seems manic and riled up. He holds up a club and gestures threateningly at the cloaked one. The cloaked one is having none of this and simply brains the man over the head with his staff. The man goes down hard, prompting another one to take a swipe at the cloaked guy. Cloaked guy takes a shot to the face, but he doesn't flinch. He just jabs with his staff and knocks the guy to the pavement. The group loses morale and turns heel to run. The cloaked one does nothing but stand there and watch. Since he's not moving, I manage to get closer to get a better look at what happened. I get within 6 feet of this person before they turn to face me. The shawl had gotten knocked loose from the fight, and I could clearly see their faces. Oh shit. This person looks like an older version of me. Graying hair, sunburned skin, and a weary look in his eyes. He seems to be looking down at something while leaning on his stick, down at my ankle. I notice that the stick he has is a metal rod similar to the one I have. He looks up from my ankle but avoids making eye contact. I feel that strong wind returning again, this time coming from directly above us. This time it's not so overbearing and loud. I wake up from the dream feeling both bewildered and curious. To this day, I still think about where the cloaked one has gone next. Here's to hoping I see him again sometime.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.